So I've never wrote a script, I've never touched an animation software, but I've managed to get 1 billion views on the videos of animation.
That's Oliver Gilpin, a 23-year-old who's making over $100,000 a month running 30+ animation channels with a mission to create entertainment that builds a wiser world. That's right, he's gotten over 1 billion views with educational cartoons on topic ranging from geopolitics to capitalism and even outer space. Today I'm talking to him about how he runs so many channels without being involved with any of them.
I think I've not watched like 75% of the videos on Human Body and Solar Balls.
Oliver's hiring secrets to find operators who will run his YouTube channels for him.
What is interesting is if I hired in the West, I would be losing like $30,000 a month right now.
The exact company structure behind all of his channels with over 80 employees.
My model is I'm building a holding company essentially. So I want to have a team which is supporting all of the channels.
And for the first time ever, Oliver opens up his books and shares all of the financials behind running a faceless animation channel. Backstage Careers exclusive.
Exactly. Here we have the Backstage Careers exclusive of the profit and loss statement of the channels.
All right, Oliver, welcome to the show, man. Happy we're finally doing this.
Yeah, definitely, Jeremy. It's been many months since we connected and talked about it.
I wanted to know, first off, how you got into this whole weird YouTube world. Like, what's the origin story?
Yeah, sure. So it started off with Minecraft. Being a little Minecraft kid, playing Minecraft videos. That was when I was like 12. So that's like 12 years ago now, 11 years ago. That was the start. And then I gradually did that for like 4 or 5 years, got to 10K subscribers. Then I just realized it was a dying channel because I tried to change niche as you do, and you kind of fail when you change video game niche.
That's fine. So many people start off, I feel like when I interviewed Patty, that was his thing as well, right? A lot of people like get introduced to the world of YouTube through, I guess, like gaming, specifically.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
So you started your channel, and I think you started an agency, right? Like a editing agency. Was that the first foray into like business YouTube, or was it starting channels already from the start?
After the Minecraft thing, I did some like drop shipping, e-commerce stuff, and then when I was 17, I thought I want to just do some kind of business or YouTube, and I'm going to like leave school. So I left school at 17, and I didn't really have any income. I was just like, okay, I'm either going to make it work as a person doing business, or I'm going to do YouTube. So it's like those two things. And I said to my parents that I'll come back in a year if it doesn't work out. Give me a year to make this work. And it turns out that it did work. The first thing I tried was like doing merchandise for YouTubers. That didn't work. That took me like 4 or 5 months of wasted time. And then the agency was the first thing. So business-wise, the agency doing video editing, thumbnails, ideation for YouTubers, that was the first thing that worked.
And so you just like reaching out cold to like YouTubers and being like, hey, I can do your title thumbnails better than you, and sending samples and then starting to get clients like that.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny because I started off just like testing the market. So I would email like 100 YouTubers, had no team, had no product, couldn't video edit their videos myself because I'm not good enough. I just said, hey, I've got a team of editors who can do this, consistent style, 7 days a week. So you have a reliability. Are you interested? And then when I finally got a client, I went to Upwork, and then I found my first few video editors. Because of my experience doing YouTube myself, I had the knowledge to manage an editor, but not necessarily to edit really well myself. So I was able to like judge the content before sending it to the YouTuber. And then it started from there. So me and the first editor, who's actually still at the agency 5 years later, which is great, we kind of worked 7 days a week for like 6 or 7 months. It was pretty insane.
So that was when you were 18, right? Today, how old are you?
23.
So not that long, like 5 years ago.
It started off with vlogs, gaming, and then lifestyle. And now it's kind of a mix of challenge videos as well. Starting to do more businesses that are interested in production services. It's kind of a combination now.
Where did the idea come to start your own like animation channels?
Even through the period of doing the agency, I was always like, I want to have an impact on the world that is beyond making money. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, okay, how can I do that? And because I've already been building this skill set of YouTube for so long, it seemed quite natural to do something in that space. Education is something I really care about, particularly education around psychology, personal growth, self-development, etc. So I thought, okay, how can I start to make content in this space in an interesting way that reaches a broad audience? I want to make content that isn't educational, that gets thousands of views, tens of thousands. I want to focus on making entertainment that is educational. So it's chocolate covered broccoli. That's the concept, which we've talked about before. I saw animation is probably the best way to visually, metaphorically explain these concepts in, how geopolitics work, how space is, human biology, etc. So it was the best format for that. It's not necessarily the best format for making money, but it's the best format for education that I could kind of find. And it tied nicely into having a skill set of building teams, because animation is quite complex with lots of different team members. So to have that skill set really helped.
Before the first animation channel, like how big was the agency?
That was, I think, around 20 people or 25, half full-time, half part-time. So the revenue there was like 30,000 US a month, maybe like 5,000 profit. So yeah, I was kind of ended up spending like half my profit to start this channel because animation is super expensive.
I would imagine, especially in the beginning, and you're like probably making a bunch of mistakes, right? And just like burning through a lot of cash to kind of experiment and figure out what works.
Oh yeah, it's insane. So the first channel was called Otherworldly History. It's like aliens analyzing human history, like its perspective, trying to bring its outsider perspective to our own history. But it's not a niche which is very big. It's like two Venn diagrams, aliens and history. It's like a small little gap between it. And it's like nobody gives a shit, basically. So that was a bit of trouble. And I ended up spending $35,000 over like 2 years. I think it made like $2,000 or $3,000 in AdSense. So I lost like 30K net. Pretty big flop. But I learned everything I needed to make Mr. Spherical, which was the next one. And that worked. So that helped a lot.
What was the lesson from that big flop?
It was too original. It was like me trying to make a format which was educational instead of seeing what already worked on YouTube and thinking, okay, let's pivot that to be slightly more educational. Let's pivot it to be slightly different, slightly more valuable to the viewer. It was like something just crazy in my head that I thought, okay, this is awesome. Everyone's going to love this. It was too creative.
You didn't do enough research for that, and it wasn't like a proven concept, right? And like the niche itself was like, there was no chance of like, however good you might have been, there was no chance of like making it pop.
So Hank Green has this concept of merge two channel ideas together and you can kind of come up with something new. And that's the advice I took. However, I did it slightly wrong and this totally lost me 30K. What I did wrong about that was I merged two channels together in a way that meant that there was a small Venn diagram overlap instead of merging two channel ideas together and then doing something which is like not just that Venn diagram overlap, it's like just generally broad. And that's the key thing, I think, is if you're going to build channels, use others as inspiration, make sure you don't merge two channels and then have a small Venn diagram overlap. That's kind of a big mistake.
Then you start Mr. Spherical. What changed on that second launch? Like, I guess you learned that lesson. You probably realized like, shit, like this is not the wrong, this is the wrong like topic to do. Describe like going back to the drawing board and wanting to make things right the second time around.
The way I did that is I found a few channels on YouTube which were already working in animation. So this concept of like a ball with a country flag on it, which is our animation style, that was already existing on Reddit. There was a Poland ball. It's called Poland Ball, and it's like got 600K people on Reddit, like subscribed. Then there's also lots on YouTube as well. So the first thing there, which I did well, was I found a niche which was already succeeding on Reddit and already succeeding on YouTube. And the key thing about this niche was it wasn't just succeeding in terms of just getting lots of views. The people who were doing it, number one, weren't doing it very well. Number two, they weren't doing it very often. So they were posting once every month, once every 2 months. Yet, despite that inconsistency, despite that lack of quality, they were still getting lots of views, like 500,000 a video, 750,000 a video. So that's kind of like an interesting example of you want to find a niche where somebody can basically be an artist and still succeed. So it's like find those niches and then do more than an artist, like come into the niche, be a business person about it, and then you can just transform the niche and lead it, which is what we did.
You mentioned Poland balls. That was subreddit?
Yeah, subreddit community. So it's like illustrations of just like funny political moments, like illustrations. And then somebody turned that into animation on YouTube called Country Balls. And then there was a few of those creators, and then we used that as inspiration for Mr. Spherical.
And did it better. You basically like took the concept and like executed better.
Exactly. So execute with more budget, more consistency, high quality scripts, high quality animation. And that's why it grew to 1 million subscribers in a year.
In a year, damn. I guess this time you had the right idea, proven idea, right? Is there anything else you did differently? What did that first year look like?
I think on the second video, I already found somebody to do channel management. And the reason that was important is I am not somebody who's a good manager. I can lead, I can find the vision, but I'm not somebody who's good at keeping a production schedule, looking at the quality of the animation, like telling people how to change it. Like, I just don't care. So that's like something which fortunately I found somebody to do that for me. And that helped a lot because Alvaro, his name, he did a fantastic job of that. So that's not something that most people can take as a takeaway, but that's a big difference.
Since then, you've started a bunch of channels. Can you real quick break down the channels that are running today?
Currently running is Mr. Spherical, which is the channel we're talking about, which is country balls. So this is a concept where you have a country, which is represented by this ball-shaped figure with a flag on it. It's mostly a comedic style to make fun of governments, to make fun of countries, to make fun of international relations, but do it also in a way that's educational, so teach history or teach current events. And then Solar Balls is actually a similar kind of situation where it's essentially planets talking instead of countries talking. We have planets as an animated show, essentially, where these planets in our solar system are talking to each other, going on adventures, having relationships and dynamics between them. And we're also teaching about space and how the space is changing. And then the next is Worker Boy, which is taking the concept of countries represented as spheres to companies. So essentially putting companies as characters, interacting with each other, the history of companies, how they founded, how they started, current events in terms of what's happening.
That's my personal favorite, just for people listening. It's very good.
We're also going to start to mix that with countries. So for example, like there's one company that's like a big banana company in, I believe, Guatemala, and they kind of conspired with the US to overthrow the government. So we can like do some mix between like governments and countries. And the last one is Human Body, which is organs as characters. So organs in the body like brain, heart, etc. They are going through the world, having experiences. So for example, what happens if you have no stomach? Like, can you live without a stomach? What happens if you eat some weird thing? Like, is it possible to survive? What happens if you have like extreme heat, like a volcano, like right next to you? All these kind of like what if scenarios. And the idea there is to teach about human biology and just generally how our bodies work. So again, same fun concept. It's 70% entertainment, 30% education. That's kind of our ratio. It is meant to be fun. Like it's not that serious, but it's also educational.
You've kind of taken this concept, right? Like now you've figured out like a model of like an animation channel, and now you're able to spin this off into, it's almost like a franchise.
And the interesting thing is that we didn't necessarily start that particular style because it was like just something we wanted to do. It was because animation is super expensive. So unless you have like a very simple characters, then it's like impossible to make it work profit-wise. So we started off because of that, but then we managed to make it into like, as you said, like almost a franchise because we did it really well.
And that's a brand, right? Like it seems like there's a good amount of overlap between the different channels as well, like the viewership, right? So
Definitely.
You've been able to build like, which I want to get back to, but you've been able to build like a really like active community in each of these, on each of these channels.
Yeah, definitely.
It might get confused. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into, the team building now and kind of like your hiring secrets, because you're a master at building teams. I think you're inspired by Richard Branson, right? And how he's built teams and like find like a COO to run the business. And so I guess really high level, what is your business, YouTube business, like hiring philosophy, or I guess delegation philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely inspired by Richard Branson. Funnily enough, when I was 19 years old, I was absolutely nerding out about how to scale a team, how to hire people, how to delegate. And I contacted Richard Branson's team because they have like some email that I could find. And I said, okay, so I've watched like every interview he's ever done, and it's kind of, useful, but he's never given like a step-by-step process of how to delegate. They didn't respond for like a month. And then suddenly they got back and said, hey, yeah, we asked him. He's made like an article responding to you. So he's got this article online. We can find it. You can put it in the show notes. But it like says an entrepreneur that's 19 reached out. He asked about how to delegate. Here's how to delegate. So he's like put a step-by-step process about that, which is fun.
Do you know the title of the article?
It's called How to Delegate by Richard Branson.
Nice.
On
That's
Virgin.com.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a really useful process there in that article. And alongside that, I'll just like explain the general philosophy, combining his approach with also other people as well. So the main goal is to find somebody who is passionate or just generally values and really cares about the particular work they're doing, right? And that's important because if you want them to succeed, then they need to probably care about actually succeeding. They need to be good at what they're doing. They need to want to be good at what they're doing. So Mr. Beast talks about obsession. Like, I need somebody who's obsessed. I'm not going to hire people who aren't obsessed.
And just to clarify, we're talking about the channel manager right here, right?
That's true, yeah. Yeah, it kind of applies generally for other roles, but definitely we're talking about the channel manager, the content strategist, kind of your key senior people. This is like what's really essential. So the first thing is that it is find somebody who really cares. They value the job, they value the role. And kind of like, here's a few ways to do that. So firstly, in interviews, if you ask the question, what's your career aspirations in 2 to 3 years? It can be really useful because if somebody says, okay, I want to move into TV, then they probably don't care that much about doing YouTube, doing social media. They're probably using this as like a way to make an income. And that's like not really a very inspiring reason to want to join your team, right? So you want people who care about the long term of their career being in the same area as what you're providing, because then they will care about learning. And if they care about learning, that means they'll listen to you. That also means that they will create results which are actually helping your business. So that's really important, is find people who have the right long-term aspirations aligned with what you're able to teach them and the general niche.
Okay. Sweet. So now we talked about how you hire these people, and that I don't think you've shared online yet anywhere. I don't know if you're willing to share on this interview, but that, I mean, for me, that was like, this is gold. I'm like how you identify these people, because I think one thing that you do is you hire a lot in developing countries, right? Because like animation is expensive, and able to be able to turn a profit on your content, you need people that aren't too expensive, right? But you need people that are still good. So how do you find that interlap of people that are excellent but that are also like relatively affordable?
Yeah, exactly. I think the first thing which is interesting is if I hired in the West, I would be losing like $30,000 a month right now.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the difference in terms of how it just wouldn't work on YouTube as doing animation. In terms of the actual strategy. So I have a particular technique which has worked really well, and it is basic to do this. I use these tools like Social Blade, Channel Crawler, etc., which allow you to say, okay, I want to find people who have YouTube channels with this many subscribers, let's say 10,000 to 100,000. Plus, I want them to be in these countries, Peru, Ecuador, just South America generally, or Eastern Europe. And I also want them to maybe have in their channel the kind of like keyword animation, because then it will kind of find me the right channels.
This is actually something that I think would be worth like screen sharing, if you want to share like how you do that on Channel Crawler. And like, let's say you're hiring for one of the channels you're planning out, like let's take a specific example and show how you do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're here with Channel Crawler. This is probably the best tool, I'd say, for using this technique. You can just generally do it though if you want to. Like, let's say you have an idea in the niche of space, so you can intentionally go to YouTube and find channels that have, however many subscribers, because you can filter by channels when you go to YouTube search. Anyway, YouTube Channel Crawler. So I am going to ignore the English because that doesn't really matter too much. If somebody's like an animator, they can speak. Their channel might be in Spanish, right? I don't need to have them in English. So countries, this is really valuable, is when you log in, you can you can even do it here. You can select every country. So if you select this, then when somebody puts their country as their channel about page, kind of correct country, then you'll find them. So that's kind of the first thing that's pretty useful.
And which countries do you usually try to hire from?
So it is South American countries, Eastern Europe, and those are mainly it. And the reason for that is if you're trying to hire low-cost talent, then if you go to Southeast Asia or Asia generally, then generally they have more of a business mindset, which is listen to the boss, don't kind of do the wrong thing.
Okay.
Which means that if I'm wanting to hire somebody who runs my channel and I want that person to run it independently, then those kind of people less kind of likely to lead with their own vision. People in South America, Eastern Europe, they kind of have less of that mindset. So it's kind of like a de-risking strategy. I do have people who are really good in the Philippines, actually. But it's just generally, if you're going to look for people, I would first start South America, Eastern Europe, because the cost is appropriate and their mindset for kind of leading is also there.
Okay. And also just to clarify, so this is for looking for channel managers, and here you're looking for someone that's running a small YouTube channel that's maybe not making a full-time income, and that basically that understands YouTube, that would probably be interested in making more through your channel. Did I get everything right here?
Yeah, exactly. So the goal here is you can either find somebody who hasn't got experience doing YouTube, in which case you're taking a lot of risks because you've never seen them put together a video, you've never seen them do content strategy. But if you find people who already have their own channels, you kind of already can tick the box of being obsessed because you can see they've already put a lot of hours into making YouTube content. You can tick the box of, I can judge how good they are at producing quality because I can see their content. It's like in front of me. And those two things are really important to de-risk hiring a channel manager. If you're hiring like an animator, you can use this technique as well. So you can find animators by doing this. If you're hiring editors, maybe you could do it as well. But generally it's for channel managers because them proving they already care about YouTube is particularly important. Yeah.
Okay. And you have the range here, 5,000 to 200,000. Is that kind of the sweet spot you're looking at for?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think anything more than 200K, and usually they already kind of have made it that kind of full-time thing. Yeah. Maybe 500K is max. Because like sometimes in lower income countries, they still make like hardly any money, but they have lots of subscribers. I think 5,000 is kind of minimum to say, okay, they've established themselves, they know what they're doing, and they still haven't made it into kind of a full-time income. So yeah, the key thing I'd say is it is about finding somebody who has the passion, obsession, but they're still in the stage of like making a bit of money as a hobbyist, and they kind of want to make it into a full-time thing, but they haven't yet managed to get the success to, and you kind of find them at that point, you give them like a stable salary, stable opportunity, and then you essentially enable them to meet their obsession by doing YouTube, but do it in a less risky way. Yeah.
Got it. So let's say you're hiring for this new soccer channel you're thinking about. Like, what would you put? Would you put any keywords here, or how would you look for something here?
Yeah, sure. So there are some advanced searches which I actually have the upgraded subscription, which helps. I don't currently have it here because I'm not logged in. Okay. But yeah, basically you can find, here it is, like channel keywords. So keywords and tags are key points. So for example, I can put football, and then anyone who has a channel which has either in the channel about page or the description, the keyword football, then they will appear here. And then the process is filtering that list into a list of people who are actually suitable. But yeah, I'd recommend keywords, channel tags, and then I would also do these filters, choose countries, choose subscribers, and that's your set, and then filter.
Okay. And then when you're filtering through that list, are you just looking for, good content, right? Like, or content that's more, I guess, aligned with what you're looking to do? You're basically looking for someone that's already doing what you want to do? Is that
so? Yeah. So the niche can be different. That's fine. When I interview the person, I want to make sure they're relatively interested in the niche, because like if they don't care at all about geopolitics, then running a channel about geopolitics might be difficult. But the main thing I'm looking for is a care for like YouTube as a general industry. And that is kind of shown by them running any kind of channel. So that's kind of good news, is you don't need to like find somebody specifically doing what you want to. You need to find somebody who has the right passion, obsession, and combine that with interviewing them, testing what niche they're interested in. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Cool. Anything else regarding, like, is this the main way you find channel managers, or is there another way?
Yeah, referrals has been useful now that we've kind of grown enough. We can like find people who, referrals. Here's another kind of fun technique. So if you're looking for a channel manager and you're doing content which requires scripting, then what you can do is you can find people who are script writers. And sometimes they have appropriate kind of vision to manage. And at the same time, the writing kind of shapes the video quite a lot. And therefore, they kind of can have the strategic kind of director mindset and channel manager mindset. So I think that's a good thing to think about as well, is writers can be quite good as well. And the last thing is universities. So we've actually managed to find like a professor at an Argentine university, and he's basically been referring us talent. So people who graduate from this program, he's like sending us them, and then they're joining our team. So we have like 7 people or 8 people.
So there's like a video editing like program or animation program?
Animation program, yeah. So we've hired like 8 or 9, 7, 8 people, all from one university, from one professor. So if you can do that, if you can find contacts to professors and universities, that's also really good. So I would look for like screenwriting, writing for like channel directors. There may be animation courses if you're looking for somebody who wants to be an animator, maybe look for filmmaking or documentary making kind of courses if you want somebody who can be a director. Kind of like find those courses and then contact the professors, and that's a pretty interesting way to do it too. Yeah,
Love that. Love that. Okay, so let's go move out a little bit. So when you're starting a channel, is that the first hire you're making, the manager?
Yeah, so previously it wasn't. I didn't. The first channel with Otherworldly, I did it myself, and then I hired an animator, mainly because I didn't have the money to do anything else.
Okay.
And that was more challenging. But yes, now the model is I don't launch a channel until I have a team, which I'm really confident in. So how do I define that? Basically, my goal is put together a team, have the right channel idea, give them a budget, and then basically I should be able to trust that team to spend all that budget without me looking. So I'm not trying to be in a position where I am every day talking to the team, making sure they're progressing things well. I want to be confident enough in the channel idea, confident enough in the team to know that they can spend my money. And if it works, okay, awesome. If it doesn't work, I still feel I spent my money well. And the reason for that is if I want to make a new channel every month or even every week in like 10 years, I need to not be needed in the channel.
Right? Yeah. No, absolutely. I know you have some org charts. Can you pull one of those up? Let's just look at one. I'll let you pick, but I just want to show kind of what a team behind one of your animation channels looks like.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
And by the way, we have a bunch of extra resources for people listening. Org charts, like budget sheets that Oliver uses, and he's been kind enough to kind of share with you guys. I'll put a link below in the description. You guys can sign up to download those.
Yeah, first time ever sharing it.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. Okay, let's jump into the org chart then. Okay. Screen sharing. There we go. Okay, so let's have a look. So firstly, for the general company, my model is I'm building a holding company essentially. So I want to have a team which is supporting all of the channels. So a business team which is supporting all the channels. So a finance manager to help with projections, finance calculations, making sure that we're getting paid on time by sponsors, etc. I have somebody doing head of distribution, so launching new language channels, getting on Snapchat, TikTok, etc. E-commerce, handling the merchandise. Consultant, just like kind of assistant, helping with different pieces I need, and then talent sourcer as well. So that's kind of the first piece. And then in terms of each individual channel itself, let's jump into one of those. So we have, this is for Solar Balls, which is the animation channel we have. So Alvaro, he is a director, animator, writer. He has a skill set across all of those things, mainly directing. And then we have one writer per channel or two. And we usually have, to start off with, a new channel will have like 1 or 2 animators. And then when we scale, we're at like 8 animators. So I think Solar Balls has like 5, Mrs. Spherical has 8 or 9. So animators, and then we have a background artist who helps across various pieces of the channels. Voice actor each channel. We kind of have an independent, each channel has a separate voiceover. And the reason for that is we don't want to put too much risk on one person, right? Because if they become unavailable, if they change their mind about what they're doing, then that kind of screws us in many channels, right? So we need to be thoughtful about that. And that's kind of the model is.
How is there any way I guess, do you give them equity in the channel somehow? Or like, I assume you want to incentivize to stay along for the long run. So how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. So our approach is we want to make sure the channels feel like a small team or feel like an individual. We don't want them to feel like a Vice Media or some giant corporation. So for that, we need to incentivize people to act like it's their own channel. And that's mainly the director. So the director needs to have like a profit share, a bonus when we get sponsors, or an AdSense share, or a bonus when we get 100K views on a video, whatever it is, like different pieces like that. That's also something in the resources we can share. I have put together a table which includes like every single different compensation mechanism I've done in the past.
Oh, wow.
And that's really useful if you're trying to get creative about what suits your channel. So director, incentivize them like that. And then with animators, we currently do like a percentage of the AdSense revenue that they do for a video they do. So like, I don't know, like 2-3%, not very much. Or we do like a bonus for, let's say, 100K views. So they still care about the quality of the video,
Yeah.
And then writers, again, percentage of AdSense revenue works nicely. And the key thing is with incentives is the person needs to be able to control the incentive they're pursuing in some way. So for example, if I give a writer a percentage of profit, that's good, but they can't really control all of the expenses of the channel.
Yeah.
The director can, but the writer can't. So a writer getting a percentage of AdSense makes more sense because they can control the view count more because they can actually impact it by making a better script. But the costs of everyone else, they can't really control. So it's like find what they can somewhat control and then try and align the incentive with that so that they don't feel hopeless if, let's say, it doesn't go well. And if it does go well, they feel like they actually contributed to making that amount of money.
That makes sense. So I know these probably vary wildly across channels, but like what's a ballpark like percentage you give to like a director, for example?
Yeah, so previously it was like 10-15% of AdSense, but now I've realized that's kind of like too much because it's revenue AdSense, and also it doesn't incentivize them to care about profit. So now I'm focusing more on profit. So like 10% of profit, I'd say that's enough. What I do is I scale it. So it starts off with like 8% up until year one. Year 1 to year 2 is like 9%. And then scale it, which means you encourage longevity because they feel like they're always progressing. Secondly, you can also add like a bonus in. So for example, if you get the channel to a point where it reaches 20 million views per month for 3 months, then you get an extra 2% on whatever you're already at. So it's like find ways to, well, first of all, know what behavior you want to happen. Yeah. And then find ways to create like simple ways that both is a win-win for them and for you. And that's how to do it. And then it's kind of a really good situation. Yeah.
Love that. And yeah, and you're kind of providing a growth trajectory for them. So every year you kind of add a percentage to that, and love that. And script writers, were you saying like 5% AdSense per video or
around that point.
Same with animators. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see. Where do we go from here? As far as hiring like talent besides the manager, do you, like you mentioned, like partnering up with like a professor at a university, which is genius. Do you still use sites like Upwork, or is it like are you kind of not using those sites anymore? Like, are those still good sites to hire?
Yeah, we still use them. I'd recommend using Upwork. That's how we hired most of the agency, actually. So my first hires were on Upwork. I'd recommend that. If you're looking for Filipino talent, then there's some local job sites. So I'd recommend maybe talking to ChatGPT and like find local job sites. Here's a key point actually is if you hire on Upwork, you're finding talent who already know about Western rates. So a lot of them will be like charging like American will be charging. If you find people on these newer sites, then they might have only just come out of traditional media and therefore they're used to local rates in their country for traditional media. Therefore, if you provide them like 20, 30% or double the salary, let's say they earn 500 US a month. If you provide them 1,000 a month, like they're really happy with that. Compared to somebody who's been on Upwork for 2 years, they might want $2,000 a month. So if you find people on local job sites, they're more likely to be more pleased with a salary that's less, basically. Which, if you need to have a budgeted channel, then that's important.
You're hiring like so many people. What's your internal like hiring process? Do you have like someone HR like in charge of HR, or what are your processes around that?
Yeah, so one person full time recruiting, and that he has the goal of I give him a role, and then his goal is to find that role. So he's creative, and he does that for me. I do help him with the strategy of that because it is difficult to find these roles. But that works out well. Is he, consults with me. We talk about it. We decide on the payment structure. Then he'll go on do job posts on different places, do the channel crawling, social media stuff as well. That works.
Got it. And internally, what are the systems you guys use to? I mean, because you've got like 80 employees, right? Like, how do you stay organized across all of these channels? I think you use Discord, right? What are the systems and processes you use to like stay organized across all these channels and businesses?
Yeah. So an interesting thing about what we're doing is we're not very organized in terms of systems.
Okay.
So the way we actually manage to make it work is, yes, we have different channels, like different channels are different Discord servers. And yes, we do have some systems, but the main way we have success with everyone working together, I'm like able to take weekends off entirely. I don't have any emergencies. The reason it works is very simple. We just find people who are really passionate and we give them the right incentive, like percentage of profit, percentage of AdSense revenue. They treat it like their own channel. And therefore, I know if something goes wrong, they really care about fixing it. And that's a really simple way to mean that you can kind of fix those areas where, a system might otherwise fix it. But because you have somebody who really cares, they're going to see it, they're going to fix it themselves. And that's kind of my model, is try and focus more on the kind of lean startup, as opposed to like a big organization with like systems and organization.
So it goes back to that Richard Branson model of delegating.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. So how do you spend most of your time?
So my main focuses are two things. Number one, I want to make a pipeline of new channel ideas by finding a team that is like dedicated to finding channel ideas for me. So I'm like helping them. I'm looking at new channel ideas, doing the financial kind of rough napkin math for them, looking at the niches.
So this is part of your holding like staff, holdco staff, right? Where it's like you have someone that's like dedicated to finding new channels to start, and you're kind of collaborating with them on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like not really involved in the production of the videos. I'm not at all, actually. So I've never wrote a script. I've never touched an animation software, but I've managed to get we've got over 1 billion views on the videos of animation, and I've never touched the software, right? So
I love that.
So it's pretty successful at doing that. And in terms of the teams, I haven't actually watched. I think I've not watched like 75% of the videos on Human Body and Solables. Like I've only watched like 20%, 25% of them. So I don't even watch my own channel as well, because I hire the people I trust and I let them do it, and they love that as well. So that's it. And then priorities wise, because of that, because I have that trust, I can focus on new stuff. So new channel ideas, finding new directors for new channel ideas and new channels. And then how else do I spend my time? It's mainly those two things. And
traveling.
Then traveling. Exactly. Yeah. I'm here in Bali. So yeah, I do like to travel. Enjoying weekend trips, motorbike trips around the island. That's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're working on the business, not in the business, right? Like kind of this typical, I guess stereotypical thing to say, but it's true. It's like,
definitely.
I think that's appealing to a lot of people.
And I'd say that's like all down to delegation. Is that if you find the right people, you treat them with consideration, as Richard Branson says, like care about them. If you care about them, they're going to care about you. And I think one of the issues that many people face when they're hiring, particularly in the YouTube faceless channel space, is a lot of these people are making channels just to make money. And by doing that, they're also just hiring people to make money for them. So if I'm being hired by somebody to make money for them, and they're just like making shit content, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to treat me like a resource, I'm going to treat you like a resource. Like, I just want money from you. Like, just give me, the money for the paycheck and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's also, it's like, what is the culture you're building? And like, do you have something more than making money? Because if you don't, you're probably not going to have a situation like me where you can just go on a weekend trip, not check your work phone at all. And like, I know everything's totally fine. Like, I'm really stressed because I have such a good team. But
the way I see it is like, you're helping people start businesses in a way, right? You're kind of like enabling people to be entrepreneurs, like that wouldn't have kind of the follow through to do it themselves, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have the talent, they have the drive, but they just don't have the high level overview of like what team members they need, what process to start the channel they need. And this is the kind of thing that I provide. So you're right. Yeah.
You're like giving the playbook.
Playbook or a platform to enable them to do that and build a team around them. That's also another key point, is I build a team around them. That's my main skill set.
At this point, how you have the agency, you still have the editing agency, right? The YouTube agency, and then you have the channels. Like, how do those compare revenue wise? I assume that the agency is still like making you more cash at this point, right? But I'm curious how those compare and those, like, how much of a priority each of those are for you in the business, right? And your attention.
Yeah. So in terms of revenue, I'd say they're pretty similar actually, like around 40,000 a month each, roughly across all the channels, across all of the agency. So that's 80,000 to 100,000 a month in revenue. And in terms of the priorities, so again, with the agency, I've used a similar model to Richard Branson. I've said, I want to step back from the agency so I can pursue building channels. Therefore, I need to find somebody who can run it for me. So I promoted the head of operations to managing director, so she runs it. And that means I spend like 2 to 3 hours a month just talking to her on a call. But I've kind of like got to a role where I'm a consultant basically for my own business. I think that's kind of the ultimate role, is like chairman is this role that you sometimes see in these like corporate organization charts. And a chairman is basically somebody who has all the experience and they are there to advise and consult. And that's something which I am doing for the agency and I'm doing for most of the channels as well. And that's kind of the model. And I think that's the goal for every single channel.
Got it. And now, how are you doing on this goal of 12, like starting a channel a month? Because I mean, that sounds very ambitious, right? Obviously, now it seems like you have the structure for it, especially now you showed me kind of the holdco. I mean, you have the employees that are surveying the entire group, right, of channels, and then you have individual owners inside of each of those. When what has that started already? If not, when is that starting, and how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like channels, technically it has started because we're launching a lot of language channels alongside our other channels, right?
Yes.
But I don't really consider that like impressive or part of my equation. I'm purely counting actual brands that succeed. So that requires a lot of ideas, yeah. So if I want to make one brand a month that succeeds, I need probably 2 brands a month. One of them fails, one of them succeeds.
Oh wow! So you need to launch 3 a month.
Yeah, 2 or 3 a month, and then I also need like 2-3 times the amount of ideas, like 10 ideas, 12 ideas a month to actually like check and investigate before I then actually launch it. So yeah, the pipeline at the moment needs to improve in more channel ideas and more directors to run those channel ideas. So directors or partners, right? It's like if people partner with me, that's great because I want to, again, build more educational channels that entertain, make money. Other people also might want to do that, but they don't have the team, the skill set, the money, etc. So it's a mixture of building channels myself, partnering, incubating channels, and doing that. So yeah, in terms of the goal, early next year, I'm pretty confident that we can do that for next year. Okay. And 10 years in the future, 5 years, I would say we can definitely, I'd like to launch a channel every single week, which would be insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Does that give you any anxiety of like having that many channels and that many? Because at the end of the day, I guess at this point, like you still, like the people still report to you, like the channel managers, right? I'm guessing you're going to replace yourself with that equation at some point.
Yeah.
Does that give you any anxiety, or does the system that you describe, where I mean, you hire these people, make them like a equity partner in the channel, is that like, does that kind of take off a lot of the stress and you're actually like, I can start as many, and I can start like 100 channels and like I'll be stress free still?
Yeah. So for now, I've had the experience of like starting stuff like too many channels that are in the beginning stages, and it's a bit stressful. I agree. But recently I've been kind of modeling it out and figuring out, for example, my rule I said earlier, which is if I'm going to start a channel, I need to trust that the team will spend my money well, and I trust the team and the channel idea without me being a part of it, which basically means once the channel idea is launched, the team should be in place. Maybe they got a consultant as well outside who's helping them out. That should all be happening without me. So I don't really need to worry. Like once the budget's spent, it's spent. And that's okay, because it was part of my risk reward calculation of, okay, if it profits, it's worth it. If it doesn't profit, it was part of the 2 out of 3 channels that failed, and that's okay as well. So yeah, I think I'm pretty confident that 1 channel a month I can do and not be stressed. Like I probably am stressed for like 2 hours a week. Like most YouTubers are like stressed like every day. I'm fine.
That's incredible, man. That's good. It's a good place to be in.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm pleased with that.
I think it's a good place to mention also that if anyone is interested in partnering up with Oliver, to be a partner in one of these animation channels, you can reach out to him. you want to mention your email and your Twitter, maybe whatever, but is the best way to reach out to you to connect.
Yeah, Twitter and email is great. So we can put them in the description. And yeah, if you want to partner, if you want to have me either be a 50-50 partner or a minor partner or a major partner in building a channel, then yes, maybe we can make something work. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Real quick. So you mentioned from all of the channels you currently have launched, you make about $40,000 a month, right? Can you break down in revenue? Yes. Can you break down where that comes from? Let's maybe take like your biggest channel, Mr. Spherical, and kind of break down like a pie chart of like the revenue of what that looks like.
First time showing this as well.
Nice. Backstage Careers exclusive.
Exactly. Here we have the Backstage Careers exclusive of the profit and loss statement of the channels. So this is excluding the agency, but this is all the details on the channels themselves. Okay. So let's just run through it. This is the total revenue for each individual channel across all of the revenue streams. So you'll see that Human Body started only in July, basically. So it's only just started.
And this is daily.
Oh no, this is monthly.
Monthly, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's monthly. So this is, I mean, as you can see, like the RPM of Mrs. Spherical is pretty low. It's like $1.50, $2. So yeah, it's AdSense revenue is like $7,000 a month. Solar Balls AdSense revenue is currently at $25,000 a month. So that's kind of a crazy difference. And again,
is that just niche specific? Is that just because of the RPM?
Yeah. So back to the RPM point. That's like a 2.5 difference, 2.5 times difference in the RPM. And that totally changes the channel because Mrs. Spherical currently, I'll just show you. So this is the P&L for Mrs. Spherical. So if we don't get a sponsor, we lose like $2,000. If we do get a sponsor, we make $20,000, $25,000 net profit. Right? It's insane. So this is like a really important point is sponsors matter, RPM matters. And yeah, that's kind of really interesting. And then
and that goes back to the point of like RPM matters. It's like it does, like it's like on paper Mr. Spherical is more like more successful as far as views and stuff, right? And the audience, the community you build, but Solar Ball seems to be like way more profitable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Mr. Spherical, when it gets a sponsor, maybe makes like $10,000 profit. If it gets no sponsor, it loses like $5,000. If Solar Balls gets a sponsor, it makes like $20,000. If it doesn't, it makes like $10,000, $15,000.
Wow.
So it's insane. Yeah. RPM, like I used to think that was like a bullshit metric that only people who care about money at all costs like care about, but actually no, it's like an important thing. Care about RPM, it matters.
Okay, cool. All right, and here we have a breakdown of the revenue for Mr. Spherical channel, right?
Yeah, so if we come back, let's come back here a bit. You'll see that so last year we got like an insane amount of money in sponsors. So in 1 month, Mr. Spherical made okay, that's what's happened there. That's a bit broken. Wait, where is it? Oh, there it's this month. Okay, 75. Okay, look at that. So it made $80,000 in a month because we got so many sponsors. And then now we're here. The environment isn't so good. We're now like losing money, making money. It's kind of like break even or a bit like that. Solar Balls. Let's have a look. So we're consistently profiting here, right? So every month, $5,000 to $25,000.
I noticed that you recently launched merch, and you also have this like these membership perks in the YouTube, which honestly like really well executed. I haven't seen a channel like executed that well with like the little trailer you had for those. Is that why you're like getting into merch? Because like to kind of get more predictable revenue, and also I mean, it seems like you've built like an incredible community, like active, engaged community. Can you share a little more around that?
Yeah, sure. So that's the goal, is to build more revenue sources that can support the channel stability wise. So merchandise has been one that we've seen our competitors have done. And we've done it. It hasn't worked out fantastically. I mean, we've done like $6,000 in revenue or so over the past 2 weeks. I mean, it's okay, but it's not great. It could have been better. We do have a very strong community, but I think the issue is they're very young. So I think once we get to Christmas, it's going to work. Until then, they don't really have money, so that's kind of the challenge. But we also use Patreon, like Syllables has Patreon, which is it's good. It's like $3,500 a month within a few months. So started to build those out.
But it seems like it's still like a smaller share of the pie. Like sponsorships and AdSense is still like where most of the money is being made.
Exactly.
And then foreign channels, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So back to my point around be like whatever your conservative estimates are for the channel, make sure that it's going to make sure the conservative estimates look good. So for example, I am now trying to make it that the AdSense revenue roughly covers the costs, and therefore sponsors are like pure profit. If I'm in a situation where the AdSense money isn't covering the channel's expenses, then that is going to put pressure on me when, for example, we have a recession and it just declines even more. So I need to have that buffer. So I'd recommend that is like in your projections, try and make sure the AdSense revenue can cover the production expenses. And that's an important metric for like de-risking things.
Okay. And can we talk about the foreign channels for a little bit? I know for Mr. Spherical, you have 12 language channels, which is crazy. How profitable is that? And I want you to talk about real quick about the mentality behind that of just like being able to repurpose. Like you've already invested a lot into these videos, right? And like the language channel is like relatively easy to create essentially a new channel, like because it's a completely new channel in a different market, right? From scratch with like very low investment, right?
Yeah, exactly. So our goal with those channels is yes, financial, but in terms of my personal goal is education. Therefore, languages is a really good way to build a big audience in just like around the world. So I'll give you an example. If I do this, you'll see the Spanish channel. It has 750,000. Does pretty well. The Russian channel is like insane. There's Arabic. Anyway, there's lots of different channels. So in terms of the way we model it, we do the following: try and avoid taking risk financially. So for example, I'm not going to spend $100 every video. Instead, I'm going to use the same model as I did before, which is, first of all, either 50-50 split like a partner with a language voiceover. Secondly, if they don't want that, then I'll do a split where I pay them a small fixed fee per month or a small fixed fee per video, combined with 15 or 20% of AdSense. And again, here's the key point. I want to make sure they care about the channel. If they don't care about the channel, then I'm going to be making like $100 a month. And I'm going to have to think about this channel. I don't want to think about making $100 a month. So these channels need to run themselves. And the only way that works is if I have somebody who cares, they treat it like their own channel, and I give them the resources, the content to do that. And then we split the revenue. So in terms of the profitability of it, I think that I think it kind of adds to the profit by like 25%. So in some ways that's quite a bit, because it does support the fact that the animation costs a lot, as you said. Yeah.
Are you saying like globally for Mr. Spherical, you have 12 channels and it boosts the total revenue on the channel by 25%?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's still relatively minimal, but I mean it's nice. I mean it's free money, right? It's like low effort.
Exactly.
And
it's going to increase over time as well, because we're going to be able to get sponsors in those languages more frequently, I'd say. As they establish, the evergreen catalog is going to be pretty strong, because in those languages, there's not much good content. So the evergreen catalogs, I think, are stronger. So there's like a few things why it's also beneficial in that way.
So for someone that wants to build a YouTube empire, like you have, right? But that's starting from scratch. Maybe they're working behind the scenes on YouTube. Maybe they're in college and like really interested in getting into YouTube stuff and want to start like a YouTube business. Really, what would be the step-by-step you would recommend they follow?
So firstly, it's understanding yourself. Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What skills do you have? Are you good at video editing, writing, etc.? So put that on a piece of paper. And then secondly, go onto YouTube and see what interesting niches there are that you slightly care about. So you want to make sure the RPM is really good, but you also want to make sure you slightly care about it, because that will also motivate you, and just generally your content will have a different feeling to it. Okay, once you've done that, then find somebody who can partner with you to complement your weaknesses. So for example, if you don't know how to animate, you can find an animator. If you don't know how to write, find a writer. If you've never done content strategy, but you know you can write really well, find a content strategist who's already on YouTube. So I'd recommend find this person. And the reason for that is it's better to have a successful channel where you own half of it than risk lots of money because you are paying people to work with you and then lose that money. So to start with, I recommend partnering. Once you've established yourself, once you've got the experience, then you can obviously pay lots of people. But I would start with trying to find people and partner with them. And that's the best way to do it.
Okay, so find a partner. How do you actually tactically like start this channel? Like, what would be the steps for launching a new channel once you find a niche, found a good partner? Like, what are the tactical steps to launch a new channel?
Yeah. So once you found the niche, then find how you can create content that has 20% more value to the viewer than what's currently existing. So what do I mean by value to the viewer? We all know that like business has this concept of value proposition. And often on YouTube, we kind of forget that that is why people are watching. They're watching for value. So what is the value to the viewer? Maybe it is you are making space as an education area. You're making it more interesting. You're making it more funny. You're better entertaining than what's already in the niche. That's an example, which I do. And then once you do that, you can kind of like craft your formula of, okay, my content is better because of this, therefore viewers will come for this. That's the first thing. Then when you actually launch the videos, focus on making 3 videos and post them all at once, which have a thread between them. Mm-hmm. So you want them to be able to, the viewer to come to one video and then the next video is similar. So they click the end card, they watch the next video. That's pretty important because YouTube cares about a long watch session as well as caring about a long video watching session. So that's important.
To finish off, I'm curious what drives you with these channels. Because you've chosen a route that's harder. Like you've chosen a route that's not necessarily the most optimized to make money, but as a result, you're making a lot of money. But it's kind of like the hard mode, right? And like you want to do things right. And I feel like there's a purpose behind it. So I'm curious what that purpose is, and if you have a vision for the next 10 years with this chocolate covered broccoli stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So the vision is to keep building channels which bring education that most people don't have an interest in, bring it to them by making it entertaining. So they come for the entertainment and then they learn something at the same time. So the way I like to think of it is we're creating entertainment with simple ideas that help people become wiser in any area. So space, geopolitics, whatever we decide to do. And the reason for that is I want to obviously make money and, have successful business in that sense. But also I want to know that once I, finish making channels and maybe I move on to something else, I want to know that I reached tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people and did it in a way that had a simple idea, which helped them become wiser. And to me, that's fulfilling. It makes me feel like I have a legacy. And I think that if you can integrate that, then you will probably have a more fulfilling career. It's easier to attract talent because they also like missions. Yeah. So that's why I do it.
I love that. I think that's a great place to end. As we mentioned earlier, Oliver has a bunch of resources that he's been like kind enough to share with you. Some of these super secret spreadsheets of like budgets of his channel launches and like breakdown of some revenue. So I'll add a link for you guys to download that in the show notes. Definitely check out Oliver on Twitter. I think it's Ollie Gilpin at Ollie Gilpin. Right. I'll add his email as well if and you guys are interested in reaching out to him to partner up on the new channel. But yeah, thanks so much for your time today, Oliver. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of value from this interview and be inspired.
Awesome, Jeremy. Yeah, that was really good fun.